What's going on, everyone? Welcome into the debut episode of Mavs Latest, where I, Josyah Howard, keep you caught up with all the latest with the Dallas Mavericks. And I am really hyped. Well, maybe not hyped, but I am excited for this story right here to be the first one to kick it off. Mavericks head coach Jason Kidd reportedly interested in the New York Knicks open head coaching job. Am I surprised? Not necessarily. He did play for the Knicks his last stop before he retired from the NBA. But it's more about not that Jason Kidd's interested. Is that would the Mavericks even let this happen? I first of all, I don't think it's a smart move for the Dallas Mavericks to let him walk, let him even get in the building in New York to interview for this job, because he honestly has really built a foundation here in Dallas. From the start, he developed Luka Doncic into the player that he is now today. Because when Luka Doncic came into the league, we didn't really know what position he was going to play. Was he a shooting guard? Was he a small forward? Kidd had the insight to say, no, Luka Doncic is a point guard. He needs the ball in his hands at all times because he can not only score the ball as great as anyone in the league, but he could facilitate as great as anyone in the league. So why wouldn't I want my whole offense running through him? And now, bringing up the point of him building with Luka Doncic, now you have Cooper Flagg most likely coming into the team with the number one overall pick in this year's NBA draft. You want a Jason Kidd to stay at the helm because he's proven time and time again that if there's a young talent that all he needs is great coaching to take him to that next step. You've seen that with a Luka Doncic with Jason Kidd. You've seen that with the Giannis Antetokounmpo, and obviously we'll talk a little bit more about that Giannis Antetokounmpo connection with Jason Kidd a little later in this episode. But you want Jason Kidd in the building to coach up a Cooper Flagg who, honestly, I personally think is going to be one of the better players in the NBA. I think he does have a ceiling of top 10 franchise superstar player. But if you put him in a situation, or if you put him in spots where he could ultimately fail because you're not preparing him to be in the spots he needs to be in, then you're not only hindering Cooper Flagg, but you're hindering your whole franchise. You had Luka, you traded him, whatever. Like, I'm going to refer back to the Luka trade a lot in this podcast because a lot of what not only the past of this franchise, but the future of this franchise surrounds that trade. So I do have to refer to it. But in this case of talking about Jason Kidd staying with the Mavericks, you have to sit here and say, all right, now you add Cooper Flagg. Does that extend your championship window? Possibly. But honestly, Cooper Flagg to me is the most NBA ready prospect in terms of if you have a almost championship roster and add him to it, I think he could make you a championship contender. Now, with Kyrie not being there, I would pump the brakes a little bit on immediate championship contender. But I could see this team already contending back in the playoffs by year two, especially if Kyrie could get back to the level of health that they need him to get to. But I also think there's an argument where you could say, well, your title window is shorter. If you stay with Dallas, do you want to maximize what this title window could be in this short window? Or do you want to hang around and help Cooper develop? Like, Kidd has to ask all those questions to himself to figure out what he wants to do. But if you tell yourself, hey, like, this championship window is shorter than what I was really looking for, because with Luka, I felt like we were contending for that championship no matter what because he's that great. you do have an Anthony Davis that still puts you in that area. You still have Kyrie in the mix. You might lose some of these pieces, a Gafford, a PJ Washington upcoming in the offseason. We'll obviously in the future get to all of that, obviously, as I keep you up with the latest here on Mavs Latest. Um, but with that being said, if Kidd doesn't want to be around that shorter title window, then maybe he does want to entertain going to New York. Now, could you argue they have a short title window? Yes, but their core guys are on the younger side. You have a Brunson who's not yet 30, Cat is about to be 30, Bridge is approaching 30. They're not quite at that age yet where you feel like your title window is shrunken. Now, do you go after a Kidd if you're New York because you think it attracts a Giannis? Do you think it attracts a KD, who reportedly is super locked in on the San Antonio Spurs? If I'm KD, I would be locked in on the San Antonio Spurs too. I think he's a perfect fit for not only what they need on the court, but off the court. I think in terms of growing Wemby into a mega superstar in the NBA, whatever you want to say or whatever your criticism is of Kevin Durant, he's still somebody that at worst was the second best player in the NBA for a 5 to 7 year stretch. So he has a ton of knowledge that he could pass on to somebody like Wemby. So I think he's kind of locked in San Antonio. So that kind of brings me back to Giannis. And earlier today, we kind of hear a lot of we hear from Giannis, and he kind of seems like he's kind of back on the track of staying in Milwaukee. But to entertain this conversation, let's just say he is entertaining New York. Is that enough to get Kidd to go to New York? I would think that'd make me second guess a little bit. That'd make me take a pause and say, all right, I'll hear you out. I'll take an interview. And that goes back to Dallas and me saying, you can't let him even get to the interview. Because if you let him get to that interview, they're going to want to hire him. So you're either going to have to just let him walk, or you're going to have a trade ready to go. You need alternate coaching options ready to rock. And I don't think where you guys are with this roster, with the PR disaster that the Luka trade was, this is not something you need right now. You do not need to lose your head coach right now. That is too much drama. You've already dealt with drama for 6 straight months. You're lucky you got the first pick. You're lucky Cooper's in the building. You cannot lose your coach. So at the end of the day, no matter what it is, no matter if you're trying to attract Giannis, no matter if you want the Jalen Brunson connection, because another guy, second round pick, that Jason Kidd was not solely responsible, but one of the benefactors of developing Jalen Brunson. So I do see the attraction with bringing in a Jason Kidd to my program if I'm New York. But I think he fits what Dallas, or where Dallas is right now. And I wouldn't call it a rebuild, but I would call it a retool. He is exactly the coach that I would want in place right now, bringing in a Cooper Flag and also having a veteran like Anthony Davis in the building. Jason Kidd is that guy that you want at the forefront. You don't want to lose him. So I would say, if it were my guess, and obviously, the Athletics already reporting that Jason Kidd is most likely staying in Dallas, and most of this pod has been why I really think he should stay in Dallas. And my prediction would be, there's some smoke here. Sometimes when there's smoke, there's fire. But in this case, I think the fire is going to be put out really quickly. I don't think Dallas Mavericks fans have much to worry about here. I think Jason Kidd will be staying here for the long haul. I think Cooper Flag definitely helps his case in terms of wanting to stay for the long haul and developing this young potential star and seeing where he could take this franchise. Because I think this is his franchise for the taking, and if it's not year one or year two, like at some point he is taking the proverbial flag from this team. And yes, that's a pun. It was terrible. I'm sorry. But, this has been the latest with the Mavs. This is Mavs Latest. I'm Josyah Howard. Thanks again for joining us on the debut episode. And come back for more. Subscribe on the YouTube channel. And let's do it, y'all.